Hey guys, Godfather of Anxiety here again. I just wanted to do a short video about some of the initial symptoms I experienced when I started to have anxiety and panic disorder. I feel as though this is an important video because there's probably a lot of you out there who wonder, do I actually have a diagnosable mental health condition? You know, am I just stressed out? What's going on? And I can't speak for everybody, guys, but for me, there was a pretty clear line of before and after. You know, as I've mentioned to you guys, I was not handling stress well for about 5 months before I had my first panic attack. I was not getting sleep. I had a really bad work schedule. Um, it was a difficult time in general in my life, as far as some of the external things that were going on as well, some family issues. So anyways, this was a cumulative thing. And but still, during that time, as much as I knew I was, burning the candle at both ends, if you will, I still felt basically like myself, just a stressed out version of myself. So during that time, I wouldn't say that I had what would have been diagnosed as an anxiety disorder. However, coming back from Montreal, I had a ridiculously strong panic attack. It's the first one I ever had, and it lasted for almost an hour. And that belies how long panic attacks are even supposed to be able to last. But it was intense. I was in the fetal position. My wife probably thought I was dying. It was terrible. So anyways, after I got back, I think people have to understand, I didn't know what panic attacks were. I didn't know what anxiety disorder was, really. The closest thing that I could have likened to that was a nervous breakdown. So, what I wanted to do, and I think what a lot of you guys would have done, is I wanted to go home, go to sleep, wake up, and pretend that never happened. But unfortunately, that was not a possibility. I did go to sleep. I did wake up, but I wasn't right. And here's what I'll describe. These are my initial symptoms of me having panic disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. Things did not look right. The environment didn't look the same. These were the same places I had been residing for the previous, 7 years, but everything looked off. And it's a really hard thing to explain to people who haven't suffered from it, but things that are very familiar and very comfortable to you don't feel familiar and don't feel comfortable. I know now that was because I was stuck in fight or flight. I didn't know that then. So if things seem off, if your environment doesn't look right, guys, that could be a clue that you're, at least heading towards, if not already have an anxiety disorder, a diagnosable anxiety disorder. That was the one symptom I remember. Another thing I remember is instantly my stomach was off. And when I say off, I mean my heartburn went from a 5 to a million on a scale of 1 to 10. My stomach was off. I had a lot of IBS, and I had that before that, but this was weird. It was different. Sometimes I'd have to go really fast, or I'd have an accident, and then other times I'd be constipated, so digestive issues were huge. I was dizzy. That's another big one, guys. If you feel dizzy all the time, if you feel off, if you're losing your balance. I remember being stopped at a red light and I felt like I was still moving. I was pushing on the brake. There's really only two things that can cause this, that type of dizziness. And that is an inner ear disturbance or anxiety. And anxiety causes inner ear disturbances, and they're not sure why. Obviously, it has to do with your brain and the way the signals are being interpreted. But so if you have that unsteady feeling, that lightheaded feeling, that feeling where things are spinning or moving, especially combined with some of these other symptoms I've mentioned, that's another really good sign that you may have a diagnosable anxiety disorder. Another thing, so I was dizzy. Another thing I want to stress to you guys too is, like I had told you when I first started talking about this, I wanted to go to sleep and wake up and pretend it didn't happen. And what I would notice is after I slept for about up to maybe 30 seconds, things would look normal again. And then things would go and start to look off. Dark, different atmosphere, kind of like the atmosphere you would have in a bad dream. Another big symptom that I had right away was my dreams went wacko. So normally, I think I'm like everyone else. I have some weird dreams. I have some good dreams. I have some bad dreams. A lot of the time, if you have a good night's sleep, you don't even remember your dreams, right? But during this time, obviously, I wasn't sleeping well, and my dreams were awful. They were horrible dreams, and they were every night, and they'd be recurring, and people would either be dying in my dreams, or I wouldn't even get into the darkness of some of those dreams. So, and that was an immediate thing as soon as after I had that panic attack. And since then, I've never, another huge symptom that and I don't want people to get too discouraged with this, but another huge symptom is you feel like you can't relax. No matter what, you can't relax. Like everything's good, you worked, you had dinner, you're with your loved ones, everyone's safe, but you can't relax. Guys, that is one of the biggest, most powerful indicators that you are experiencing clinical anxiety, and that you should seek the help of a mental health professional. Because you should be able to relax. You should be able to decompress. And if you can't, that's going to lead there. Even if you're not clinical yet, you will end up being clinically depressed or clinically anxious if you can't relax. But all of these things that I've mentioned so far, guys, it's just a sign of you being in fight or flight. Your body's trying to keep you alive. It senses imminent danger, just as if there was a bear stalking you, if some type of apex predator, or if there's a tornado bearing down on you. We've been designed to have an emergency mode that gives us it speeds up our brains. It gives us free access to our adrenal glands, so we get basically superhuman strength and superhuman intelligence even for a short time. But those chemicals are only designed for emergency life or death situations. And when you're stuck in that, then that's when things look weird. That's when you're dizzy all the time. That's when your stomach is off all the time, because it interferes with every single process that goes on in your body. Digestion, your inner ear, your ability to sleep. Guys, it doesn't want you to sleep. Your body doesn't want you to sleep because sleeping is vulnerable, right? So anyways, I just wanted to give a few. Those were some of my initial symptoms. And, they're not all very specific, but I think if you are starting to feel that way, I think it would be a really good thing for you to potentially seek the help of a mental health professional. And even if you aren't quite to the point where they would call it a clinical case of anxiety, you might be to the point where treatment will be beneficial for you. And at least being aware of the fact that you're on the verge of potentially having a diagnosable anxiety condition, it can help you to know this just just for the sake of maybe lifestyle adjustments you can make, guys. So that's about all I wanted to say. I just wanted to make a short video so that you guys know what to look for, you know, because I spent the next 2 years after having those symptoms, and I got a lot of other symptoms after that, but the next couple of years, I was looking for a physiological answer to my problems. I was looking for what was physically wrong with me. And if I had known what the symptoms of anxiety were, I probably wouldn't have wasted my time doing that. And I would have acknowledged more quickly that it was a mental health issue that I was dealing with. So it's about all I wanted to say. Guys, thanks so much for the engagement. I have been under the weather. I'm finally getting better. Hopefully I can get some more videos out to you guys. And thanks so much. And until my next video, take care.